There are secrets that don't hide because they are rare. They hide because they are effective. Not effective like a motivational quote that makes you feel brave for 20 minutes, then collapses the moment your phone lights up. Effective like a key that fits a lock you didn't even know was inside you. Tonight, I'm going to give you a sound, not a song, not a mantra you repeat until your mind goes numb. A specific vibration, a tiny, almost ridiculous thing, so simple that modern people dismiss it as too easy, which is exactly why it survived. The old traditions didn't protect knowledge with iron gates. They protected it with simplicity, because the ego hates simple things. The ego wants complexity, trophies, 10 steps, 20 steps, 1,000 steps, so it can feel important while staying asleep. But Thoth, scribe of the hidden architecture, keeper of thresholds, was said to leave instructions that were brutal in their plainness. A sound, a breath, a focus point, and the warning, do it once correctly and you won't be able to unremember. This is not theater. This is not aesthetic spirituality. This is closer to an inner physics. Think about it. A wine glass shatters when a singer hits the right note, not because the glass is weak, but because the frequency is exact. It meets the object's hidden pattern and says, "Wake up." Now imagine consciousness has a glass note. Not a note that breaks you, no, a note that breaks the forgetting. Egypt hints at it through temple acoustics and the idea of words of power. India holds it in seed syllables and the science of resonance in the body. Tibet wraps it in humming, bowls, and the deliberate training of attention until attention becomes a blade. Different costumes, same engine. And here's the part that's almost unsettling. The secret sound is not powerful because it is loud. It is powerful because it teaches awareness how to recognize itself, the way a mirror recognizes light. If you've ever had a moment randomly where you suddenly became aware that you were aware, and for 2 seconds the world felt clean and strangely obvious, you've already brushed the edge of what we're doing. So before we begin, the prerequisites, not rules, safeguards. Do not practice this while driving, walking near traffic, or doing anything that needs fast reactions. Keep it gentle. If you feel dizzy, strained, panicky, or uncomfortable, stop. Sit normally, breathe naturally. You don't win points by forcing anything. If you have any health condition that makes breath work uncomfortable, skip the breathing part and simply listen, hum softly, or just read along. This is about awareness, not lung performance. Because here's one of the first traps. People hear ancient secret and immediately turn it into a competition. And the second trap, people chase fireworks, visions, tingles, dramatic signs, then miss the real result. A quiet shift where you stop being dragged by your own mind. Tonight's method is designed for one thing: consciousness remembering itself. If you're ready, I want you to treat this like stepping into a chamber you can't photograph, a chamber made of attention. And if by the end of this you feel even a fraction of that remembering, you will leave a comment to seal it. Because ritual is not only private, ritual is also collective resonance. You'll type one sentence: I have activated. The journey has begun. Not for me, for your nervous system, for your subconscious, for the field we're building together. Now, let's open the first door. This is the ancient vibration said to turn awareness back toward itself, like a torch finally pointing at the hand holding it. It's hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it because it sounds like nothing. A soft hum, a simple vowel, a pause, and then If it lands, your inner world does something that feels illegal. It stops chasing itself. I still remember the first time I stumbled into it. Not in a temple, not in Egypt, not with incense and robes and cinematic lighting. I was exhausted, the kind of exhaustion where your thoughts become a swarm and even silence feels loud. I tried a humming exercise that some modern teachers call nervous system toning. Just curiosity, no faith. But the old texts, when you read between their polite words, don't call it relaxation, they call it return. They imply the human being has an original state, an unbroken attention that gets scattered into fragments, plans, worries, identities, performance, fear. And the scattered attention becomes a prison because you start mistaking the prison for me. The secret sound is not a spell you cast outward. It is a reorientation, like rotating a compass needle until it snaps to north. And the myth says Thoth understood something the modern world forgot. The mind cannot argue with vibration. It can debate beliefs all day. It can resist advice. It can twist logic into knots. But vibration, precise vibration, goes underneath the argument and touches the wiring. Modern science, in its own language, has hints of this. Your body is not just muscles and bones, it's rhythms, heartbeat, breath, electrical oscillations, microtremors, pulses of attention. Even your hearing is tuned to detect patterns. When you hum, you send vibration through the bones of your skull and the tissues of your throat and chest. It's a physical event, a mechanical event, a neurological event. And attention, whether you call it consciousness, awareness, spirit, seems to respond when the body becomes coherent. Ancient builders knew this. That's why chambers were designed to answer sound. That's why across cultures, Egyptian ritual tones, Indian bija syllables, Tibetan chants, you keep finding the same obsession. Tone plus attention plus intention. Different names, same machine. Now here's the secret I'm actually giving you. The sound itself. Ah. The closed gate and the open sky. Yes, really. It begins as a hum, lips closed, tongue relaxed, jaw unclenched. Then it opens into a vowel, ah, like a quiet exhale becoming light. Is the gate, ah is the sky. The old symbolic language would say, gathers the scattered pieces, ah releases the gathered pieces into the original field. And if you do it correctly, the secret isn't the sound. The secret is what the sound forces you to notice. Because during you can't easily talk in your head. The mind loses leverage. The hum occupies the channel where inner chatter usually lives. And something opens if you keep it gentle. But there's a precision here. This is not sing loudly and hope the universe notices. This is a hinge note. A tone that is comfortable, sustainable, and steady. The first practice, one cycle. Posture. Sit upright, not stiff. Imagine a thread lifting the crown of your head. Shoulders soft, hands resting. Focus point. Choose one point to anchor attention, either the center of your chest or the spot between your eyebrows. Pick one. Do not bounce between both. Breath. Inhale normally through the nose for a comfortable count of 4. Exhale normally for a comfortable count of 6. Do that 3 times. No strain, no force. Now we begin the cycle. Phase, about 12 seconds. Close your lips softly. Hum at a comfortable pitch. Not too low, not too high. The goal is steadiness. While humming, keep your attention on your chosen point. If thoughts appear, don't fight them. Let them float outside the hum like birds outside a window. Transition, a short pause. When the hum ends, pause for 1 heartbeat. Not a dramatic breath hold, just a clean gap. Ah phase, about 12 seconds. Open your mouth gently and let ah come out on the exhale, soft and smooth, like fog leaving a mirror. Keep attention anchored. Let the sound be effortless. Silence phase, about 9 seconds. Stop, mouth closed, breathe naturally. Now watch without chasing what remains. That entire cycle is roughly 33 seconds. And here's the rule Thoth would approve of. Do not do many cycles at first. Do one cycle with total sincerity. Because the trap is quantity, people think repetition creates power. Sometimes repetition creates numbness. The old initiates understood something harsh. If the first cycle doesn't land, doing 10 more often just trains your mind to pretend. So we do one, and then we observe. What you might feel, signs the sound touched the lock. Some people feel almost nothing until 10 minutes later they realize their thoughts have slowed like a river widening. Some feel warmth in the chest, like a small sun switching on. Some feel tingling in the face or forehead, not as magic, but as attention becoming somatic, embodied. Some feel a sudden sadness, like grief draining out of a hidden pocket. That is not failure, that is the nervous system unclenching. And some feel the strangest effect of all, a quiet distance from their own mental noise. As if you're no longer inside the storm, you're seeing the storm from the shore. That is the remembering. Not fireworks, not hallucinations, just the clean recognition. I am aware, and I can watch. The warnings, mental traps, and side effects. Now, listen carefully because this is where the script turns cold on purpose. Trap 1, the prophet fever. If you do one cycle and feel clear, the ego might immediately put on a robe and declare you chosen. It will want to preach, correct others, announce your awakening. That impulse is not enlightenment, it is inflation. If you notice it, your antidote is simple. Do the next cycle more quietly. Return to humility. The sound is a mirror. Don't paint your name on the mirror. Trap 2, the fireworks addiction. If you don't get dramatic sensations, the mind may call the practice fake and chase a different technique. This is like planting a seed, digging it up every hour to check if it grew, then complaining it never became a tree. The real transformation often feels ordinary at first. Trap 3, forcing the breath. Some people try to make the hum louder, the exhale longer, the pause extreme. Don't. This is not a test of toughness. If you feel strained or dizzy, you're doing violence to the vessel that's supposed to carry the signal. Side effects, if you practice with intensity or obsession, can include restlessness, vivid dreams, emotional release, or a strange irritability as old patterns resist change. Not because the sound is harmful, but because the sound makes incoherence visible, and the ego hates being exposed. The cross-cultural echo, why this appears everywhere. In India, you'll find Om described as the seed vibration, the sound that contains waking, dreaming, deep sleep. You don't have to take that as literal physics to recognize the pattern. A hum that gathers, a vowel that opens, a silence that reveals. In Tibet, the long tones and bowls aren't entertainment, they are training wheels for attention, teaching the mind to stop scattering. In Egypt, the temple wasn't just architecture, it was a resonant instrument, a stone throat designed to amplify the inner ear of the initiate. And the same hidden principle appears. When sound becomes steady, attention becomes steady. When attention becomes steady, awareness remembers itself. So here is your assignment, not a chore, a threshold. Tonight, or as soon as you can sit quietly, do one 33-second cycle. 1. And after you do it, write a comment beneath the video. I have activated. The journey has begun. If you want, add what you noticed. Warmth, quiet, resistance, nothing at all. Because the collective field matters.
When many people seal the same ritual with language, the mind stops treating it as fantasy and starts treating it as real.
This is the hidden acoustic room the ancients trained you to enter, because the true temple was never stone, it was attention. If you've ever stood in a quiet room and suddenly noticed your own heartbeat, you've touched the edge of it. Not the heartbeat itself, the audacity of hearing it. Because normally your mind is a market. It sells you noise, it sells you urgency, it sells you identity, and you buy it so automatically you forget there is even a choice. The ancient schools did something that modern people find almost insulting. They treated attention like a muscle. Not a metaphorical muscle, a literal instrument that can be trained to aim, to hold, to become coherent. And they used sound because sound is honest. Sound does not flatter you. Sound reveals the truth immediately. Either you are steady or you are not. There is a reason this secret sound begins with the lips closed. A sealed gate. Because the first temple is containment. You cannot awaken consciousness by scattering more. You awaken it by gathering what has been scattered for years. Think of your awareness like a lantern in a storm. If you keep swinging it wildly, all you illuminate is chaos. But if you hold it still, if you let the storm move around it, something becomes visible. This section is about that visibility. Not the dramatic kind, the kind that changes your life because you can't unsee it. The legend, why Thoth hid the doorway in ordinary sound. The myths say Thoth was not only a god of writing, but of measurement, of true proportion. He knew which line lengths stabilized a temple, which angles made echoes return like disciplined soldiers, which syllables made the body feel like it had been rinsed clean from the inside. And he did not hide these things behind monsters. He hid them behind boredom, because the ego is allergic to boredom. If a technique looks too simple, the ego abandons it. That is the oldest security system in human history. So the instruction was buried in plain sight. A hum, a vowel, a pause. And the deeper instruction was not even about the sound. It was about the moment after, the silence. Because if the sound is a key, the silence is the door swinging open. The modern science mirror, why silence can feel loud. Here is something that shocks people when they start doing inner work seriously. Silence can feel threatening. Not because silence is dangerous, because silence reveals what was always there. When you reduce external stimulation, the nervous system starts broadcasting stored material, unresolved emotion, old fear, compulsive plans, random memories. Modern neuroscience would say your brain is constantly predicting and filling gaps. It hates uncertainty. It hates blank space. It rushes to fill silence with thought. The ancients didn't call it prediction. They called it the scribes of the mind, automatic inner narrators that write the story of your life without your permission. The temple work was designed to show you the narrators, so you stop being ruled by them. The hands-on practice, the inner chamber alignment. This time, we're going to refine the technique, not by adding complexity, by adding precision. You're going to perform the sound again, but with a specific inner placement. Step 1. Build the chamber. Sit as you did before. Now imagine, not visualize with strain, just sense that your skull is a stone chamber. Not metaphorically, as a felt idea. You are inside a room, and you are about to send a tone through it, like a sonar pulse. Step 2. The 3 anchors rule. Choose one anchor, only one. Your anchor is where you keep attention parked. Pick the one that feels most natural. Anchor A, the heart center, middle of chest. Best for people who are anxious, emotionally flooded, or disconnected. Anchor B, the brow point, between eyebrows. Best for people who want clarity, inner vision, focused intuition. Anchor C, the throat, center of throat. Best for people who struggle to speak truth, who swallow feelings, who live in mental loops. Pick one. Do not rotate anchors mid-practice. That's like trying to tune 3 instruments at once. Step 3. The 33-second key, with placement. Now perform the cycle again. For 12 seconds. Feel the vibration travel through your bones. Keep attention on your chosen anchor. The hum should feel like it's polishing the inside of your skull. Pause for 1 heartbeat. In that pause, do not check results. Don't scan your body like a scientist hunting data. Just rest. For 12 seconds. Let the vowel open like a sky. Keep it gentle. Feel as if the sound is exhaling through your anchor, not from your mouth. Silence for 9 seconds. Now do something most people never do. Listen to the silence as if silence is a sound. Yes, that. It feels paradoxical at first, but if you can do it, your attention becomes a blade. Because you stop chasing objects of awareness and start recognizing awareness itself. What happens in the silence, the moment consciousness recognizes? There is a moment, sometimes faint, sometimes shocking, where you realize thoughts are appearing inside something. Sensations are appearing inside something. Even the feeling of me is appearing inside something. And that something is not a thought. It's the field. This is what people try to describe with 1,000 spiritual words. Presence, witness, pure awareness, spirit, the self. But here's the raw truth. You don't need vocabulary. You need recognition. It is like realizing you have been staring at the movie, forgetting the screen exists. Then suddenly, you notice the screen. The screen doesn't fight the movie. It simply holds it. That is the remembering, and it can happen in one clean 33-second cycle. The cold warning, because the mind will try to corrupt this. Now I'm going to speak like a stern temple guardian, because this matters. When you touch the screen, the ego panics, because the ego is made of stories, and you just discovered you are not the story. So it will try to steal the experience in 3 main ways. Trap 1. The collector.
The mind will want to collect spiritual experiences like trophies. It will think, how many cycles, how many sensations, how many signs. That is not initiation. That is shopping. If you notice this impulse, stop practicing and just live your day with softer eyes. That is the real test. Trap 2. The doubter. The mind will whisper, this is placebo, this is nothing. And the funny part is, it might be right in the shallow sense. But you're not doing this to prove a theory, you're doing it to shift your relationship with your own mind. Even if it were placebo, if it gives you sovereignty over your attention, who cares what label it has? And the deeper irony, the mind that calls it placebo is the same mind that can't sit still for 60 seconds without distraction. So treat the doubter like a noisy neighbor. You don't have to fight it, you just don't invite it into the chamber. Trap 3. The obsession spiral. This is the most dangerous one. Some people, especially those who crave control, will start repeating the sound compulsively, chasing the click. If you feel yourself getting obsessive, reduce practice to 1 cycle per day for a week. 1. This is the Thoth rule I hinted at earlier. Once is initiation, repetition is integration. Repetition without integration is escape. Cross-cultural comparison. Why the chamber shows up everywhere. In Tibetan traditions, the practice of listening to the sound of silence is not poetic nonsense. It's a deliberate method for stabilizing awareness. In India, certain schools train the practitioner to notice the gap between breaths, the quiet that is always present but never noticed. In Egypt, the temple was literally a place where sound returned. Echoes taught the initiate that what you send out comes back. And psychologically, that is a teaching. When you send attention outward, the world controls you. When you let attention return inward, you become free. This is why the myths portray Thoth as a scribe, because the mind is also a scribe, and the practice is about choosing which scribe writes your life. Signs you're doing it correctly without chasing fireworks. You may notice the speed of thought slows, like a spinning fan turning into visible blades. Your emotions rise, but don't hook you as easily. You feel a quiet patience you didn't earn. Your eyes soften, your body feels heavier, safer. Dreams become vivid, sometimes symbolic, because old material is surfacing. These are not badges, they're weather. The real sign is this: you begin to catch yourself before you react. That is consciousness remembering itself. Because forgetting looks like compulsion, remembering looks like choice. The one-time threshold. Why doing it once can permanently shift you. You might ask, can one cycle really change me? Let me answer like an ancient cynic. It doesn't change you like a magic potion. It changes you like discovering a door in a house you thought had no exits. Once you know the door exists, you can't go back to believing you're trapped. Even if you don't walk through it every day, your nervous system remembers there is another way to be. And that memory alone rearranges your future. So here's what you do after watching this section. Perform 1 cycle with your chosen anchor. Then sit for 1 full minute doing nothing except listening to silence like it is sound. Then go live your life. Don't make it a performance. And comment below, I have activated. The journey has begun. If you felt the chamber open, add, I heard the silence. Because that phrase, shared across many people, becomes a collective mirror.
This is the solar code layer of the practice, the part that burns away imitation and forces the nervous system into clarity. Tell you to repeat RA 1,000 times? Sorry, the old temple magicians would laugh in your face. They weren't impressed by effort, they were impressed by accuracy. Because the ancient secret was never say sacred words until the universe pays attention. The secret was become a clean instrument, and the signal arrives on its own. RA in the old tongue wasn't just sun, it was ordering power, the force that makes scattered things align. The sun doesn't argue with darkness, it simply appears, and darkness reorganizes itself around truth. And that is exactly what this section is about. Not a dramatic enlightenment fantasy, a cold, bright inner sunrise that exposes the tricks your mind uses to keep you comfortable and asleep. There are people who want third eye like it's a gadget. They want visions, downloads, symbols, psychedelic fireworks. But the traditions, Egypt, India, Tibet, agree on a less glamorous principle. If you can't tolerate clarity, you shouldn't ask for more perception. Because inner sight without inner stability becomes obsession. Intuition without humility becomes paranoia. Energy without grounding becomes performance. So RA is not a toy. RA is a solvent. It dissolves the fog. The mythic origin, why the sun was a code, not a decoration. In the Egyptian imagination, RA's journey across the sky wasn't an astronomy lesson, it was a map of consciousness. Morning, the birth of attention. Noon, the ruthless light of awareness that reveals everything. Night, the descent into the underworld, your unconscious, where the serpent of old patterns waits. The myth says RA had to pass through darkness and return anyway. That's the initiation. Not escaping shadow, crossing it without forgetting your own light. In India, they speak of Agni, fire that transforms. In Tibet, you find the fierce compassion of wrathful deities, symbols of clarity that cuts delusion without hatred. Different costumes, same engine. And modern science, without poetry, still bounds to the same truth. Light is information. Your circadian rhythms, hormones, attention cycles, mood regulation. Your system responds to day and night like a temple responds to a chant. RA is the principle of timing and alignment. So we're going to introduce a solar pulse to your sound practice, not by worshiping the physical sun, not by staring at anything dangerous, not by turning your eyes into a science experiment. We do it internally. We do it safely. And we do it with precision. The solar warning: do not corrupt this into drama. Before practice, hear this like a temple guardian speaking through stone. Do not stare at the sun, not at sunrise, not at sunset, not ever. This practice is inner, not optical. If you feel anxious, overheated, pressured in the head, or uncomfortable, stop and return to normal breathing. If you tend toward obsessive thinking, keep it to one cycle only. RA is clarity. Clarity can feel confrontational at first. Because the trap here is very specific. When clarity rises, the mind may immediately decide it is superior. It will look at others and think they're asleep. It will look at your past and feel disgust. That is poison. Clarity without compassion becomes cruelty. If you notice judgment rising, move your anchor from brow to heart for a week. Let the sun warm the chest, not sharpen the blade. Trap 2, the vision hunger. Some people chase phenomena. They want signs, symbols, colors. They want to prove they're special. RA will sometimes give nothing on purpose, because the initiate is not tested in the chamber. The initiate is tested in the ordinary day when nothing magical is happening and you still hold coherence. If you crave fireworks, lower your expectations and increase your sincerity. One cycle, done well. Then go wash dishes like it's a ritual. Trap 3, the overheat. This is subtle.
Some people push the practice, long breaths, strong humming, intense focus, and create a heated, pressured feeling in the head. That's not enlightenment. That's strain. If you feel pressure, soften immediately. Make the hum quieter. Keep the breath natural. Anchor in the heart instead of the brow. Reduce to 1 cycle per day. Cross-cultural mirror. Why the solar code appears everywhere. In Indian tradition, solar imagery is tied to discernment, vitality, and the eye of awareness. In Tibetan practice, fierce clarity is trained so the mind doesn't turn spirituality into fantasy. In Egypt, the sun's path is a story of consciousness cycling through light and shadow. Modern science, stripped of myth, still agrees with something quietly sacred. Your nervous system learns through rhythm. Your attention stabilizes through coherence. Your perception changes when the internal signal-to-noise ratio improves. That's RA in modern language, not supernatural, supernatural. A return to the natural clarity you had before you were trained to scatter. The one-time threshold. Why one clean solar cycle can mark you. When you do this once, correctly, gently, you may not feel transformed like a movie character, but something happens that is hard to undo. You discover that clarity is not something you achieve, it's something you allow when you stop feeding fragmentation. And once you've tasted that, even briefly, your system remembers the direction. A compass doesn't need to be held for hours to prove north exists. One clean alignment is enough. So tonight, do this. 1 solar MMM-RA-A silence cycle. Then live normally. And comment beneath the video, I have activated. The journey has begun. If this section struck you, add RA has entered the chamber. Because your words are not only commentary, they are a sealing, a resonance, a collective sunrise.
This is the final truth. The real guardians of Thoth's sound are not monsters. They are ordinary life, waiting to see if you can keep remembering without becoming obsessed. That night I sang it. The pause like a blade, opening like a sky, and for a moment the world looked impossibly clean. Not brighter, cleaner, as if a film had been peeled off reality and I could finally see the simple mechanics underneath everything. And then the cruel part. Nothing outside changed. The same room, the same notifications waiting, the same unresolved conversations, the same hunger, the same chores, the same petty human friction. This is why the ancient initiates feared the return. Not the chamber, the return. Because the chamber makes you feel powerful. The return makes you prove it. If you can only remember consciousness while you are calm, alone, protected, ceremonial, then consciousness has not been remembered, it has been rented. Thoth's secret wasn't about entering a temple state. It was about bringing the temple state back into the street. This section is where we stop romanticizing awakening and treat it like what it actually is, a restructuring of your relationship with your mind. And yes, done once, correctly, this practice can permanently tilt the way you experience life, but only if you pass the return test. The underworld trick, why old patterns attack after clarity. The myths of Ra traveling at night through the underworld weren't just mythology, they were psychology. When you touch clarity, the unconscious reacts, because the unconscious is full of contracts you forgot you signed. I am only safe if I control everything. I must be busy to be valuable. If I stop worrying, something bad will happen. If I become peaceful, people will take advantage of me. If I don't suffer, I'm betraying my past. Those contracts don't vanish because you hummed once. They get revealed. And what gets revealed will often flare up. This is where people get confused. They do one cycle, feel the chamber open, then the next day they feel moody, restless, emotional, or oddly raw. They think they broke something. No, they exposed something. The sound didn't create new darkness, it turned on the light. And the ego hates light when the ego is living in a hidden room. The three guardians, the real tests nobody posts about. The ancients didn't put these in pretty poems, they put them as warnings, almost like sarcasm. If the memory cannot walk, it is not yet true. Memory here doesn't mean remembering facts, it means remembering awareness. So the guardians of this practice are not mystical beasts, they are these. Guardian 1, the phone. Yes, the glowing rectangle. Because your phone is a vibration machine, it trains your nervous system to scatter. It hijacks attention with micro rewards. After you practice the secret sound, your mind will often crave the phone harder. Why? Because coherence feels unfamiliar at first. The ego tries to re-establish its old rhythm. This is the test. Can you feel the impulse and not obey it instantly? Guardian 2, the argument. Someone will annoy you. They will misunderstand you. A small conflict will appear, and the old you will want to react like a reflex. This is the test. Can you feel the heat rise and still keep one corner of awareness anchored? Not to be spiritual, to be free. Guardian 3, the identity. This one is subtle and dangerous. After you touch clarity, the ego may build a new identity. I am awakened. I have activated. I know the secret sound. I'm different now. That identity is a trap disguised as progress because it keeps you in the story. Thoth's sound does not make you special. It makes you responsible. Responsible for your attention. Responsible for your inner climate. The integration ritual. How to pass the return test. Now we build a practice that is not a performance, a practice you can do in ordinary life, and it has a shape so simple it feels almost insulting. Good, that's how you know it's real. The 1-minute return. Do this after any trigger. Whenever you feel scattered, anxious, reactive, or pulled into a spiral, stop. Don't announce it, don't dramatize it, just stop. Take one slow inhale through the nose. On the exhale, do a tiny quiet, barely audible, 3 to 5 seconds. Pause for 1 heartbeat and think Ra once internally. Exhale the rest of your breath with a soft ah. Silent is fine. Then for 10 seconds, listen to silence as if silence is a sound. That's it. That's the return. You just carried the temple into a moment that would have stolen you. This is not about becoming emotionless. This is about becoming less possessed. Because the secret of awakening is not feeling good. It's not being owned. What transformation actually looks like without fantasy? Let me describe the real changes, because people look for dramatic signs and miss the sacred ordinary. After one true activation, you may notice you can sit in a room without reaching for stimulation immediately. Your reactions become slower, like you have an extra second of choice. Old habits start to feel loud, like they don't fit your skin the same way. You become less interested in proving yourself. You feel a strange tenderness towards your own mind because you see how exhausted it has been. And sometimes, this is important, you may feel a wave of grief. Grief for lost time. Grief for the years you lived inside the story believing it was you. That grief is not regression. It is the nervous system releasing the weight of forgetting. Side effects. What happens if done incorrectly? Now I'm going to warn you again, coldly, because the final section demands honesty. If you turn this practice into obsession, if you chase the chamber state constantly, you can create restlessness, like you're trying to force awakening. Irritability because ordinary life feels beneath you. Overthinking because the mind tries to dissect the experience. A subtle disassociation, feeling detached like you're floating above life. That is not the goal. The goal is embodiment. The goal is being fully here, but less enslaved by inner noise. If you notice any of those side effects, reduce to 1 cycle per day maximum for 7 days. Anchor in the heart and focus on simple human things. Sleep, water, walking, kindness. Because the ancient instruction was never escape the world.
It was return without forgetting. The final initiation, the once only moment. Here is the last thing I need to say, quietly like handing you a blade wrapped in cloth. If you do this once with sincerity, one clean cycle, one clean silence, something in you will recognize itself, even if you can't explain it, even if your mind doubts it later. Because recognition is not an emotion, it's a shift in orientation, like realizing the sky has always been there behind the clouds. You don't need to keep proving the sky exists, you just stop mistaking clouds for reality. So tonight or the next moment you're alone, do this final ritual. 7 calm breaths, 1 for 12 seconds, 1 heartbeat pause, internal, raw, once, 1 ah for 12 seconds, 9 seconds of listening to silence as if silence is a sound. Then stand up and do something ordinary. Drink water, wash your hands, look out a window, and notice, are you still aware? Can the memory walk? If yes, even faintly, then the journey has begun. The closing invitation, a resonance, not an advertisement. If you felt even a glimpse of the chamber, if you tasted that clean inner sunrise, don't let it die in private, because the old knowledge survived through chains of resonance. One person holds the vibration, another person hears it, another person confirms it, and suddenly what was hidden for thousands of years becomes alive again, not as a museum story, but as a living field. So if you want to join the community of people who are practicing this remembrance, quietly, sincerely, without performance, then let your next actions be part of the ritual. Subscribe, not as a click, but as a vow to return, like the ancient scribe marking a page so he can come back to the line that matters. Like the video, not as approval, but as a pulse, one beat in the collective rhythm. Share it with someone you sense is ready, because not everyone is, and that's okay. The sound only opens the door for those who are already turning towards it. And most importantly, comment below with your confirmation so the field becomes real through language. I have activated. The journey has begun. If you want to seal it deeper, add the memory can walk. Because every confirmation is a thread, and thread by thread, the invisible temple returns.